Good.
Right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Corporate Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Paul Heath, and I am the chairman of this committee. I will now go through a few items of housekeeping before we proceed with the main business of the meeting. We are not expecting a fire alarm this evening, but should one sound, please can members use the exit to the rear of the chamber and assemble in the car park. Please can you make sure that your phones and devices are switched to silent. If members wish to speak during the debates this evening, please can you indicate by raising your hand and I will come to you at the appropriate time. Please can I also remind everyone to use their microphones when speaking and to switch them off when they have finished. Can I also remind you that this meeting is being webcast. I will now proceed with the main business of the meeting. Agenda item number 1 is apologies for absence, and we have received apologies from the following members: Councillor Iona Parker and Councillor Ethan Williams. I believe the rest of us are actually all there, aren't we? And everybody else is on here. Okay. So we move on to item number 2, which is declaration of interest. Do members have any disclosable pecuniary interest, other pecuniary interest or non-pecuniary interest that they wish to declare this evening? Please state the item and the nature of your interest. No, thank you. So moving on to item number 3 is the minutes of the previous meeting. Please may I have a proposer to approve the minutes as an accurate record of our meeting held on the 10th of July 2024. Thank you, Councillor Beavers. A seconder, please. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. I should just sign these. Jessica.
So regarding NEP, this is something that's been discussed at Whittam Town Council, and also one of the people on our committee is also the Essex County Councillor who's involved directly with the issue that we got in Whittam itself. And I just wanted to declare an interest in that regard.
Yes, thank you. We did check the whether the interest on NEP, and we're of the opinion that the only person that really needed to declare one would have been Councillor Butland, and he's not here. But we will note your statement anyway.
I just thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, that's fine. Belts and braces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Item number 4 is public question time. That there are no speakers or members here, so we will move on to item number 5, which is the draft terms of reference for the scrutiny into the North Essex Parking Partnership, the NEP arrangement. Members, this report is set out on items 5 to 8 of our agenda. The report outlines the proposed terms of reference for the scrutiny and review into the North Essex Parking Partnership, which are set out in full in paragraphs 3.44 on page 6 of your agenda. The purpose of the term of reference is to facilitate and to guide the scrutiny review into the NEP. As chairman of this committee, I have worked with the Vice Chairman, Councillor Williams, and Governance Office to develop a revised set of key lines of inquiry, including supplementary questions, that will enable members to explore the topic in sufficient depth. We have also taken into consideration the comments that were raised by members at the previous meeting of this committee. Please note that the key lines of inquiry identified within the report are not exhaustive, and it is likely that further lines of inquiry will naturally emerge as we progress with the scrutiny review. I would also like to take the opportunity to remind members that the committee must have an agreed set of terms of reference before the scrutiny review can commence. Members should also give consideration to any steps they wish to take next in order to commence with the scrutiny review, which we will keep a note of. So, as I was saying, all the questions that are laid out, they're not all the questions that will be asked, and some of them we may decide are not even relevant to ask. But it's just there to give a background and a step, because it was felt that we hadn't laid out a clear enough reasoning for it last time. And so, do any members have any questions on the terms of references as laid out? Councillor Abbott, please.
Not so much a question, Mr. Chairman, more an observation really. There are a lot of matters here and questions which I would describe as systems analysis and process. Now, obviously, as an authority who's signed up to NEP, we need to do that because that helps to supposed to do. But I thought the first line in section 5 is the most important one as far as the public are concerned, the people we represent. Does the NEP do what is required? Now, in my ward, we have 3 schools where there is chaotic, and I would describe it as dangerous parking. The arrangements for those parking is a combination of County Council and NEP, but NEP are the enforcement authority. And it's one of the most common references I get from residents is, what are we doing to make it safer for parents and children? So I think I just flag, as far as the public is concerned, it's that simple sentence, does the NEP do what is required, that I think we need to focus on.
Thank you, Chairman. Several points really. At 3.4.3, which is where the purpose of the review is set out, it does seem to me that this is not a neutral statement, and that I do wonder sometimes whether it would be better to ensure that such things were always couched in wording that was wholly neutral, because otherwise there could be an accusation of bias in the initial stance of our approach to scrutinising any particular issue. So it's a very general point. I think that should be neutral. Going forward through the report, I should say, first and foremost, thank you very much to our officers for the documents explaining our role better. I found them very useful, and that is actually what's informing what I've got to say about this evening. So going forward through the report, 3.4.4 items 1 to 3 are basically, it seems to me, matters that we need to be aware of to do our job. So this is basically information. So with respect to that, I would suggest that we had said information well ahead of the meeting at which we actually consider this. Is because this is a complex issue, and if we're to do our job well, I believe we have to look at not only what is there, but try and work out what might not be there, which is pertinent, which that is a natural and proper part of scrutiny. And that requires, it's quite demanding of us, and I think everybody in this room wants us to do this job well, and so I would ask for that well ahead of time. That leads me to sections 3.4.4, 4 and 5. This seems to me to be fundamentally a cost-benefit analysis piece that we are doing. Does this deliver the service we need at a reasonable cost? And I say that in light of section 6 that follows it, which considers the costs of withdrawal. That also must be taken into consideration in any cost-benefit analysis. So I point these things out as absolutely no criticism of what's in front of us, but simply to make it clear that in order to do our job well, we need plenty of time, and we need to properly understand what exactly we're setting out to do. And I do believe it's reasonable to characterise that as cost-benefit analysis and consideration of whether this is delivering best value for our residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly agree. Anybody else? Ron, for Councillor Ramage, please.
Yeah, there's just one question which I can't see in this paper what has any reference to it, is who they're accountable to at the end of the day. I can't see it anywhere, but because obviously it's not just ourselves involved with NEP, there's other councils as well, and recent events have kind of highlighted it, and I feel we need to know who is accountable to who, sort of thing, because but I just need clarification on that, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry to come back on this, but there are a couple of other things. One of them flows from what Councillor Rummage has just pointed out. The question is this. Within those additional papers explain the role of this committee and how it works, there are two other ways in which we might address this, and rather than rolling straight into another committee meeting, or indeed taking it more widely. So with respect to Councillor Rummage's point, could this lead to us looking at a need for a joint committee with other authorities with whom we share this service provider? That's the first question, because that does affect 3.4.6. Yeah. And the other thing is, given the complexity of the task, which I hope I've outlined, would it be reasonable actually to look at the possibility of setting this up as a task for a task and finish group, which would allow us to co-opt into the discussion people with perhaps greater specialist knowledge in the area than us, and people with a stronger interest in the issues. That is by no way trying to suggest us opting out. It's just how can we deal with this so that when we actually sit in committee and make a decision, which we are going to have to do, is giving us the best chance of making a really good decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. I'll just quickly come back to you on that. I can definitely take a note of those two suggestions, and we'll look at what we can do in terms of how we move forward following this meeting. So I will keep a note of that, and we will look into that and see what we can do for you. Okay.
Yes, Councillor Bevis, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of questions, if I may. And I ask these insofar as I've done a little bit of work with NEPT over the years on a couple of community projects. And so in terms of setting out the terms of reference, is that because we are going to ask NEPT to come to scrutiny, and then we'll have the opportunity to engage around these questions? So the question that's missing for me at the moment, and I've learnt a lot about this along the way, is the community aspect of it. So both of the projects, in fact 3 projects that I've been involved with NEP, there has to be a great element of community engagement. And I've learned that even if there is a community leader and a piece of work is done around that community, all of that can go back to a board which can effectively turn all of that down. So that community piece, I think, and the understanding of how that works, I think is quite important, and it's something I'd certainly like to ask of NEPT.
Sorry, Chairman, could I just come in? Councillor Bevis, would you be able to send me a question that you'd like me to perhaps send, or we can add to the terms of reference potentially, just so we've got some wording, and then we can have a look at incorporating that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, could I just ask, is that when, because I know that NEP have gone into schools and talked and done some work then. Is that the type of community bit that you mean? Just so that I'm...
Yeah, so I'll give you two brief examples. So one was to do with some red lines in our parish of Sybil Headingham, and the other one was to do with a piece of work in Halstead to get some off-road parking. And each time the NEP wanted a community lead, and that community lead had to demonstrate that it was consulting with that community, and they were leafleting the community. And I just don't think that part of the process is reflected in the question.
I understand. Right. Well, was there another point you wanted to make, Councillor Williams?
No, that was it, Mr. Chairman, yeah.
Anyone else? Right. Right. Thank you. With those comments and questions that we will follow up on, can I ask that we agree the proposed terms of reference? Have I done? Yeah. For a review into the RET. So could I ask for a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Beavers. And a seconder? Thank you in many places. All those in favour, please. Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you.
Chair, I assume that's subject to any amendments that's been discussed.
Yes, yes. I mean, as we said, because it wasn't clear enough last time, we have tried to second guess and certain things and think of ideas going forward. So there is probably too much in this one, and there definitely wasn't enough in the last time. So accept it. But if anything comes out, then of course it's only a term of reference. It's not a binding. So thank you. Right. So now if we could move on to item number 6, which is the work programme for 24-25. The report for this item is set out on pages 9 to 18 of our agenda, and a copy of the work programme is set out in appendix number 1. Following comments raised by members at the previous meeting of the committee, the draft work programme has been updated in order to ensure that the purpose and layout of the document is clear. Some of the additional narrative has been provided and acronyms have been explained. You will see in Appendix 1 that the work programme has been divided into two sections: scheduled items and items to be scheduled. The topics included within the work programme are NEP and have been identified for the purpose of a scrutiny review due to the level of interest expressed by members of the Council and the potential impact on both the authority and the public. Certain subjects, such as NEP, are considered to be of a higher priority to the Council and therefore will be addressed first by the committee. Other topics, such as the Wethersfield Asylum Centre, are related as ongoing because even though we have it now, there may be a Ministry of Justice review or something that means that it's just not worth us starting it until that has been done. So it's there because we know everybody in the district wants to know an answer about it, but they had to do it. There is no point of starting, and so I would imagine that will stay on the agenda for quite a while. As I said, before we open to questions, I would remind members, as I just said, that the work programme is a rolling document that will be updated, amended and accordingly by this committee on an ongoing basis because, well, one of the things is nobody in this room knows what the government's going to do with the planning system in this country, and there could well be something in that's going to come to us because, let's be honest, planning is probably the biggest single item in there. It affects everybody, whether it's the planning of a pylon, a solar farm, 20 houses. So I'm fairly sure we'll see that at some time. And so, can I ask members, are there any questions on the rolling programme? Councillor Holland, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The first one is, once again, referring back to the documents we've been provided with in the last couple of weeks. One of the things that we can do is to look at an upcoming decision before it's been made. And an example of that is, of course, the budget, which we look at before the decision is made. And so my question is this: in agreeing to this work schedule, is there enough flexibility in it to allow us, if we spotted, or if any member spotted, an issue coming up for a decision which members felt we needed to look at before Cabinet met and made a decision? That would, of course, be very time limited by whenever the Cabinet meeting was going to take place. Would there be the flexibility within what we are being asked to agree to here to facilitate us looking at an issue that was before a decision was made? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hond. I would say yes, there is. If something like that does come up and the committee feels that it is a worthwhile topic for us to review, to look at, then yes, certainly we would look at making some arrangements for that, whether it was an additional meeting, perhaps a one-off, or even a task and finish group if we felt that was appropriate. But we certainly got the flexibility to look at that if it comes up. The work programme is set out as what we know at the moment, so it's just reflecting the current state of where we are. Things might change, and if things like that come up, then yes, certainly we would rejig the work programme potentially and look at other options. So yes, I would say there is flexibility within the work programme.
Councillor Ramings, please.
Yeah, as one of the items on here, I just want sort of some sort of clarity on is the NEC, i.e. the North Essex Councils. What are we actually looking for in that particular aspect? What is the actual aim of doing a scrutiny on it? Because I'm not quite clear.
Thank you, Councillor Ramage. So the North Essex Councils, beg your pardon. It would be looking a bit like with the NEP, we'll be doing a kind of an overview of kind of what our involvement is with that, how it came to be, and so forth, and the value of that. So we don't really have the questions that we'd be looking at specifically yet. That detail will come later when or if that review comes forward. So I can't really give you a lot of information at the moment, but it would be looking into kind of the arrangements for that and why we have that in place and kind of what the value of that is. I hope that helps.
In other words, we don't really know at the moment what we're going to be talking about as such. Is that what we're saying?
At the moment, I don't have that detail, but it will be for the, we will have that for you.
So in other words, you'll put some flesh on the bone at some time.
Of course, we will be putting some more detail for you, and we just don't have that. Yeah. I don't have the specific detail at the moment, yeah. But we can certainly get that to you.
Yeah, it's just that some councillors here are relatively new to the council, probably don't even know what that is, so with the greatest respect to those councillors, but thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I can see by the schedule that the first date or meeting is in early April for the scrutiny review that we just discussed. I suppose with the work on the budget, that's understandable. It's quite far away. The first number one on that, on page 16, it outlines half of the meeting will take place regarding knowledge gathering session, which I do appreciate is necessary, but going back to what Councillor Holland said earlier and also Councillor Abbott, we really want to get to the effectiveness of the programme. So I know one of the suggestions for the amendments for the terms of reference was to get a pack out to members in advance. It's just a request that that's not a death by PowerPoint session that we could read in advance, and we waste a lot of time finding out information. If we did our reading in advance, we'd know anyway. My other question is, and I suppose I do appreciate that we're time bound and it's this civic year, how many meetings will there be in total for the scrutiny to be effectively conducted? And obviously it's probably not for this civic year, but how many meetings will take place? Have we got enough time within the subsequent civic year to get as many meetings in as we need to?
Thank you, Councillor Wrench. So at the moment, what we would do is look at how the review progresses. I can't say how many meetings it will take to look at this. Some reviews we can do a 1 and 2 or 2 meetings, others will take longer. It might be we go beyond the current civic year, that's a possibility. It depends, you know, we might look at those questions and think, well, actually, we've already covered much of this, we don't need to have another meeting, and leave it at that. But, you know, looking at those questions, the likelihood is it would probably go a bit longer than that. But we just can't say at the moment how long that will go on, I'm afraid. We'll just have to review at a later stage, you know, where we're at and how many more meetings we think we might need to look into this topic. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Obviously, a key item coming up is the budget scrutiny, and it's something over the years where, with minimal success, I've argued that all councillors should have an actual, more meaningful role. And I think importantly within that is where the council spends its money on local capital projects, improvements, projects which help ward councillors in their communities. In previous years, following my request, we had a capital bid scheme for councillors. That doesn't appear to, unless I missed the email, it doesn't appear to have happened this year, where members were invited, you know, is there something in your patch you would like to see some money spent on? So that seems to have fallen by the wayside. My concern about the budget scrutiny process is not that we have really any direct involvement, that we're just told what's going to happen. And I think, you know, it might seem revolutionary, but there's 49 members of this council, not however big the cabinet is. And I think we should all have a direct role. So you know, many members here have talked tonight about how do we get in ahead of the curve, and that's one I'd like to see us do. I mean, there's several projects in my ward I'd love to see progressed. At the minute, officers are saying there's no money, you know, and you've got to find other ways of doing it. But surely that's a decision which should be made through the capital programme as to whether there's any money or not. And you prioritise, obviously, you have to evidence what you want to do. But yeah, see, it might seem revolutionary, but I think all members should be involved in that process.
Thank you, Chairman, and I'm not going to hike back to our previous meeting, and I do appreciate that a lot of work has been put into this and that we are moving forward. I'm still a little bit unclear for me. And I appreciate that the initial approach goes out to members and then Jessica gets that feedback. But I still find for me that it doesn't really chime with the corporate direction of the council. So if one thinks about what happened at full council on Monday evening, so really good debate actually, on a multitude of issues. But some of the things that were coming out was around the corporate peer challenge, and actually they are saying to us that there is a piece of work to be done around strategic partnerships and the way that we internally and externally get that message out to everybody so they understand it. And it just seems to me that if that is so important, I think that we should be looking at that. Similarly, to pick up the point that Councillor Abbott has made on the capital projects, I really do think that needs to go back, and at the end of the day, we are the scrutineers of the council. That is our role. And so so I think we need to actually go back and ask that question. I think it's really important. The other thing that came out was around, and it came out again in the peer challenge, was around the asset management plan. Now, I could be wrong, I'm pretty well read. But if I was to suggest for every member around this table to tell me what their understanding of the asset management plan. Nobody would know. And again, it feeds into the whole budget process. And then finally, and it's a question I asked of Councillor Lynette Bowers-Flint, was around strategic health and our health partners. Now, historically at Scrutiny, we have had health come and see us. And I just find that, you know, I'm not saying for one moment that we shouldn't be looking at the NEP, but in terms of what's going on here at the council at the moment, I wouldn't even consider the NEP to be the most important thing that we should be looking at. So I think for me, it's still light in some of the core subjects that I think we should be looking at. And that was really the bones of my proposal at last meeting, was that I didn't feel, and actually I will go back and mention something else. We're saying here that we're going to be looking at the Wethersfield Asylum Centre, and I appreciate the complexities. It's part of it's in my ward, and I deal with it on a daily basis. But if we read the corporate plan of the council, there is actions around that. So why are we looking at it? And that's the bit I'm struggling a bit at the moment. I just don't feel that as a scrutiny committee, we're honing in to some of the really important, meaty bits of the council that I feel we should be scrutinising. Thank you, Chairman.
I have made a note, as I've said, as we've said, the document is by no means set in stone, and what you've said today, when we sit down and I will discuss it further, they could be coming onto the agenda and other items going off. As I said, I personally doubt if we will even do Wethersfield in this administration, because I doubt if it would get through the courts or anywhere for us to do it. But it is something that is often brought up because of the people that are there now, and so if we didn't list it, then we'd be negligent in our approach. But I mean, and the reason that NEP became the top is because they hit all three of the major towns, didn't they, were bringing in the charges on the high street and everything like that. It filled so many people's mailboxes, which is why when it was initially it was item number one. Item number ones come up as we go along, and as Jessica said, we will take those as they come. And
I'm so sorry, Chairman,
no,
just
that's fine.
for your indulgence again, just to go back. I mean, I don't know, I would suspect it is the case that every member has got a copy of the peer challenge as one of their key documents at the moment. It is the key document. We've had them in, they've looked at what we do, and I want to scrutinise that. You know, there are some firm dates and some firm actions that we are going to have to meet. One of them actually is this whole Fit for Future. Well, none of that's on here. And I just feel that we are not scrutinising some of the most important bits that are coming in and being made of us at the moment. And to pick up on the point that Councillor Ramage made around the North Essex councils, well, actually, let's just chuck a bit of meat on the bone, shall we? Because where are we on shared services? Where are we on combined working? And are they talking about devolution? Well, actually, I support other Essex councils around this area, and they're talking about it. And actually, what they're talking about at their scrutiny committees is very different to what we're talking about. And they seem to be chiming a lot more than we do. And it's all about this stuff. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairman, can I just... Councillor Bevis, just to come back to you about the asset management query. Sorry, just to come back to you about the asset management query that you had. The Corporate Policy Development Committee are due to receive a draft sort of version of that plan that's coming forward. So I don't know if it might be of interest to some members to perhaps watch that webcast and just get a bit more information on it then. There will be some officers presenting a report just on where it's at the moment. So that's on the 16th of October. If you would want to watch that webcast, it might be of interest to some who are a bit unfamiliar with it. Okay.
Williams, please.
I think just a general point from my perspective, I completely understand that the net will have varying relevance to different members, and I do think it is an example of something where there is probably a rural-urban divide somewhat, because as you said, Chair, you know, that is an issue that overwhelmingly affects towns like ours, I imagine, rather than some of the rural wards. And I suppose the only point I want to make is that, you know, that it will be actually quite rare that things will appear on the agenda and on the work programme that each council will see as their priority. And so I just think there needs to be a bit of a give there, because you talked about the number one issue. You know, lots of us have different number one issues. For us, NEP is pretty near the top because of the nature of our wards. For others, it won't be. And I suppose we just need to remain cognizant that there needs to be, you know, a bit of compromise when it comes to some of the issues appearing on the work programme.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Councillor Holland, please.
I think one of the things that's worth noting is that even for people who are living out on the borders, as I do, of both the county and the district, you may think that the only thing that would affect somebody who lives where I do is whatever goes on in Halstead, but it's not true, because the parking partnership is also service provider to a Baber District Council, and the hub for the north of this district is actually over the border in Sudbury. So it's relevant, in my belief, to almost everybody. And to support what Councillor Williams has just said, I think it is very important that all of us understand that we're district councillors. We're not here just to fight our corner in our little part of the district. We have district-wide responsibilities, so I fully endorse and support what we've just heard. Thank you.
Thank you. The points that have been made, though, have been noted by both myself and Jessica, and they will be fed back into the next tranche. I mean, that is the point, to come back to right where I started, that nothing here is set in stone. Well, we will look at what the majority of this committee wants us to look at, and that's the way it should be. I mean, if 7 people put up their hands, 4 and 6 against, then we proceed. And obviously the same the other way. I mean, I was quite rightly corrected for not having it set out in the way that the majority of the people here last time wanted, so we went away and worked it again, and that is what we will do. And as long as we've got a passionate committee, which I believe we have, then we will do something, and we will ask some awkward questions. Councillor Inch.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I agree. I think I do understand there was a call for topics, and some councillors did submit within that. Some unfortunately didn't, but maybe they didn't see a need, and each individual member will have their own reason for that. I think just to point to the agenda item, paragraph 3.53, it says that call for topics may be conducted later in the year, so whether that does or doesn't, but it does later say it should be noted that members can submit topic suggestions for scrutiny review by this council at any time. So it is worthwhile, if there are any members within this committee or any further members across the whole council, they can submit any issues. And I think it is important because there were, in item 3.52, there were 6 topic suggestions were received from members. So there wasn't a great deal to choose from. There wasn't, the scope wasn't there for all areas, but the need will change. And I think it's about members being on top of what's happening within their areas and bring it forward if they have it. Because as the Chairman has said, we need to really focus on the things that are important to our residents. So yeah, I just thought I'd raise that because it's quite clear that we can add things to there if we need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, members. So, any further questions, statements? No. So, if there are no further questions, could I ask that we agree the draft work programme of the Corporate Scrutiny Committee? And as has been said, if there is anything that anybody wants to be added at any time, just email it in, and we'll do the due process on it. Okay. So can I have a proposer that we accept, please? Thank you, Councillor. A second. Thank you, Councillor Randall. All those in favour, please. Thank you. Right. So if we move on to item number 7, which is the decision planner. Members, for this item we've been asked to review the decision planner for the period the 1st of October 24 to the 31st of December 2024. Do members have any issues that they would like to raise in respect to the decision planner? Thank you. So can I ask that the decision planner is noted, please? All those in favour? Thank you. Just before I do close the meeting, members, I don't know if some of you did receive the extra information that Jessica sent out regarding the extra training and programmes that are available. She sent me a couple of interesting ones that I've signed up for, so hopefully I will get better at this job. I do try, but with that, and as I say, anything that anybody wants, please email Jessica or email me, because I definitely want this committee to be a success, and I want it to have teeth and have a bite. So yeah, please let us know. And that's it. We have no urgent business, so this concludes our business for this evening. And our next scheduled meeting is the 20th of November 24 to do the initial budget proposal for 25-26. So at 19:57, I declare this meeting closed. Thank you very much, members.